everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiber Flux. Welcome back to week 5 of the Fiber Flux Spring Crochet Along. We've been having so much fun and I love seeing all your photos and reading all of your comments, and it sounds like a lot of you are having a great time with this. As promised, for week 5, I have a special surprise bonus pattern to go along with your blanket. Now last week I had a lot of you guess what that bonus pattern might be, and many of you were correct, and that is going to be a pillow. We're going to be making the Tropical Getaway throw pillow today. I have a pillow form and we've used the same granny pattern, the same color scheme to cover it. It's the same on both sides. Well, that's how I made mine. You can make yours be 2 different colors. You can make it one solid color and one solid color on the other side. You can make it multiple colors and then maybe a solid color on the back. So it's very easy to make. We're going to be using the same pattern, although I'm going to be walking you through once again how to make the pillow, or the granny square rather, because some of you may just be joining us, or maybe you just want to make the pillow. So I'm going to show you how to do the granny square again. And then also I used a 12-inch pillow form. You can use one that's larger, smaller, whatever. I'm going to show you how to customize it to your own pillow form. I'm going to be using a store-bought pillow. We're going to talk about the materials in just a moment. But you can make one yourself, especially if you sew. They're very easy to make. And you can even use all of your yarn clippings from your blanket to stuff your pillow as well. And that is a great way to recycle and repurpose some of your materials. This is designed to help you use up some of those leftovers you may have from your blanket. And you can even make a couple of these if you have lots of yarn leftovers. Sometimes I buy a little bit extra yarn when I'm making a big project like a blanket, and I have lots of leftovers. I didn't have too much this time, but this doesn't take a whole lot of yarn, and you can really customize it. Like if you have a lot of the papaya left, for example, you can add more papaya than lilac if you're running a little low on the lilac, for example. So let's get started. This is easy and fun to make, and I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I had. So let's get started. So chances are you have some yarn left over from your blanket. So what we're going to do is try and use our leftovers to cover our pillow. We're going to just sandwich 2 granny squares and then seam them together. So what you'll need is any yarn leftovers you might have. You'll need a pillow form. Now this is one I got at the craft store. It's just a 12-inch pillow form. They come in different sizes. You can get larger ones and smaller ones. So just feel free to use the size that you like best. I like the 12-inch size. And you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a measuring tape is helpful to get the correct size that you need, and you'll also need your hook, the same hook we used for the blanket, the 6.5mm K crochet hook. So I'm going to kind of do a random color pattern. So it really depends on if you have a lot of one color left, or if you have sort of even amounts of all the colors, you can change it up at regular intervals. Just decide what you want to do based on the amount of yarn that you have. I'm going to go through the square again. In case you're just joining us or you need to see it again, I'm going to go through the rounds once again. Even though we did the square in week 2, I'll still go through so you can either see it again, or if you're just making the pillow, you can see the pillow, just the pillow itself. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start with this purple. This is the lilac. And I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your crochet hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Next, we're going to chain 4. So to make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to join with a slip stitch in the farthest chain from our hook to create a ring. So this first chain we made, insert the hook into that chain farthest from the hook, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And then we're going to see this tail here. We're going to hold that along the edge as we work. And then what we're going to do is begin round 1. So to begin round 1, what we're going to do is chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is how we're going to make our flower. Now in the center of the ring, work 2 double crochets. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around the hook, insert the hook into the center of the ring, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops on your hook. That's 1 double crochet. Then we're going to make another double crochet. Then we're going to work a slip stitch into the center of the ring. And this will create our first petal. So we're going to make a total of 6 petals. So to make every petal after, so there are chain 3 at the beginning of this round counted as one of our double crochets. So we did the chain 3, 2 double crochets, but for every petal after we're going to do 3 double crochets, then a slip stitch. So work 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then a slip stitch into the center of the ring, and then just repeat for the rest of the petals until you have a total of 6. So 1, 2, 3. See, I'm sliding the stitches over as needed to give myself more space. Then work a slip stitch, then 3 more double crochets. 1, get some more yarn here. So that was 1, 2, and 3, and then work a slip stitch into the center. Now we have 4 petals, we need 2 more, so 1, 2, and 3. Then work your slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need just 1 more. So work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Push that over if you need to and work your slip stitch. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to close. So that chain 3 at the beginning, just at the bottom of that, work a slip stitch to close the round. Might be a little bit snug because you got a lot of stitches there happening. Okay, so we're just joining with a slip stitch, and then we can cut the yarn and then just go ahead and fasten off. Okay, so just straighten everything out, and then this center tail that we wove in as we went along, just give that a nice firm tug, and you can cut it if you want to at this point, just to kind of close up that hole. I forgot to mention this earlier, but if you prefer to do the magic ring when you begin your circle at the beginning, feel free to do that as well if that's what you prefer. Okay, now you can just grab another color. I'm going to grab the papaya. I'm going a little bit out of order than I did with the blanket because I want to change it up a little bit. So just feel free to do your colors however you like. All right, so let's begin round 2. Okay, so for round 2, each one of our petals was 3 double crochet. So we're going to tie the yarn onto, so you have 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet that made each petal. So locate that center double crochet, and then we're going to tie the yarn on as if to back post double crochet. So what I mean by that is to come in from the back, go over top of that post, that center double crochet, and back down. See how it goes like that? Now bring the yarn, hook it onto your hook, and bring it back through. The reason I'm tying the yarn on like this is we're going to be working this back post double crochet later, and this will kind of mimic the same look, so it looks consistent all the way around. So just tie your new yarn on, just like that, and then what we're going to do is just reinsert the hook back in the same way. So I have my yarn up here, bring it back through, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to work, this is going to be a treble crochet next, but we're going to work it like a spike stitch in between these petals. So wrap yarn around hook 2 times and insert the hook into the center of the flower. Bring up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the next 2 loops. wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. And that will create this sort of spike stitch in between our petals, okay? Now chain 1, and then we're going to work a back post double crochet in the center of this petal. So the same way we tied the yarn on, locate that centermost post, that center double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, come up from the back, over top, back down, wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through the way you came, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the next 2 loops, okay? Then you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to work another treble crochet in between the petals. So wrap yarn around hook 2 times, insert it into the center of the flower, and bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the next 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, and then chain 1. Okay, we're just going to continue around in the same manner. So in the next petal here, locate the center again, wrap yarn around hook, work that back post double crochet. So come up from the back, go over top of that post and back down. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring through the next 2 loops, and chain 1. Work a treble crochet in between the next 2 petals, wrap yarn around hook twice, insert it into the center of the flower, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, next 2 loops, and the last 2 loops. And then chain 1, and then work a back post double crochet into the next petal in the centermost double crochet, just like that, like we did before, and chain 1. Next, do your treble crochet in between the next 2 petals, and chain 1, work that back post double crochet in between the next petals, then chain 1, and another treble crochet in between the next 2 petals, and chain 1. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn here to keep that yarn flowing. Okay, work a back post double crochet in your next petal, and chain 1, and then finally we're at the last stitch we need to make. Work your treble crochet in between the next 2 petals, just like that, chain 1, and now we're back where we started with that chain 4, so count 3 chains up. So the first 3 chains counted as a double crochet, and then we needed 1 more chain because we have a chain in between each of these stitches. So count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch. Insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, okay? And round 2 is complete. Now this spike, sometimes your spikes can get split a little bit. See how you just kind of straighten them out. All right, I'm going to cut the yarn because I'm going to switch colors. And then we can just fasten off with that yarn and begin round 3. So grab any color you like for round 3. Okay, so for round 3, what we're going to do is tie the new yarn into any of these chain 1 spaces. So see all these spaces that we created by making our chain 1? Just go ahead and insert your hook in any of those spaces, bring the new yarn through. Tie it right on. Just like that. And then we're going to chain 3. So you can hold this tail along the edge of your work if you like as well to kind of weave that in. With these squares where we're working lots of colors, anytime you can hold that tail along the edge and weave it in as you go, you'll save yourself a ton of work in the end. Okay, reinsert your hook back into that same space, bring up a loop, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to work a double crochet into that same space, just like that, and then chain 1. Hop over to the next space. Now work 2 double crochet, chain 1. 1 and 2. That chain 3 we just did at the beginning of the round, that counts as one of the double crochets. So in each space all the way around, we're going to work a double crochet or 2 double crochet and then a chain 1. Okay? So 2 double crochet, chain 1, holding that tail along the edge still, 2 double crochet, chain 1, and then just continue all the way around our flower. You'll come up to a couple of tails, so just as you approach each one, just try and hold it along the edge for a couple of stitches until it's adequately woven in. Okay, next space, 2 double crochet, chain 1. Okay, so next space, 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet in the next space, chain 1. We're coming up to another tail, so I'm going to also hold that one along the edge as well. 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, and our last space, 2 double crochet, chain 1, and then we're at that chain 3. Remember at the beginning of the round, so 1, 2, 3 chains up and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay, just same way we've been doing in previous rounds, okay? So round 3 is complete. Now, when we did the blanket square from our blanket, I wanted to point out that because we worked those back post double crochets, you're going to kind of get a bowl shape at first. Once we put on more rounds, it kind of flattens out a little bit on the sides and our flower will remain kind of 3D looking. So round 3 is complete. Let's cut our yarn and fasten off, and we're ready to switch colors. Now, you don't necessarily have to switch colors as much as I'm doing. You can stick with the same color if you like. Round 4 is very similar to round 3, but we're going to be adding an extra double crochet. So in any of these chain 1 spaces, tie the new yarn right on. Just like that. And then we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did in the previous round. Insert the hook back into that same space, bring up a loop, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This time work 2 double crochet in that same space. 1 and 2. Then chain 1. Next space we're going to work 3 double crochet. Because we're making this circle, we're not quite ready to create the square shape yet, but we're still increasing. So that's why we're doing 3 double crochet now instead of 2. Okay, so work 3 double crochet and then a chain 1, 3 double crochet in the next space, and then a chain 1. So I'm going to continue working my 3 double crochet, chain 1 all the way around in each space. Once we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin and I'll show you how to finish up this round and move on to the next round. Okay, I'm just working the last stitch of round 4. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch, same thing we've been doing. So round 4 is complete. So then what we're going to do is cut our yarn and fasten off. Now so far we've done everything in a circle shape, as you can see. Now for round 5, we're going to turn our circle into a granny square. So we're going to go in the same order here, this purple, papaya, this aqua, and blue Hawaii. We're going to go in that same order for the rest of the rounds. So grab your next color, and what we're going to do is, in any of these chain 1 spaces, you can tie your new color on. Same thing we've been doing. So just tie that right on. Okay, so next what we're going to do is reinsert the hook, bring up a loop, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So a granny square is a combination of corners and sides. So you have a corner at each end, 4 corners, and then down the sides you work it a little bit differently. Okay, so we're going to start with our corner. So we did a chain 3. So now in the same space work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, then work a chain 1, and then in the same space we're going to work 3 double crochet, and that will create our granny square corner to get it started. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Okay, now let's work our sides. We're going to work 2 sides before we're ready to do another corner. So chain 1, and then in the next space, see I'm holding that tail. In the next space work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 1, hop over to the next space and work another side. So 3 double crochet and chain 1. Now we're ready to work our next corner. And because we're not beginning the round with a starting chain like this this corner here, remember we did the chain 3 at the beginning, we're going to work it slightly different. So work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and in the same space work 3 more double crochet. It's just slightly different because we're not doing that chain 3. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 1. So if we look at our square, it's going from circle and starting to become a square with 2 sides. Okay, let's work the next 2 sides. So work 3 double crochet for the next side. That's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1. We're at another tail here, so just hold that along the edge and work your next side. So our sequence is corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner, side, all the way around. Okay, so that's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet, then chain 1, holding that tail still, and now we're ready to work a corner once again. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then get a little bit more yarn here. Once again, this is a great way to use that yarn. You can see my skeins of yarn are really deflated and running low, so that's great to work up that last little bit of yarn you might have. Okay, so we're on our corner, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 3 double crochet. 1, whoops, let's try that again. That was 1, this is 2, and 3. Okay, we're ready to work our sides. Remember there were 2 sides. So let's work the first one, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then our next side, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then our final corner of the square. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then the same space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then to finish our square we need to work 2 more sides. So you can see side and side will go here. Okay, so 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and 3 more. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to close. Same way we've been doing for our previous rounds. 1, 2, 3, insert that hook, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Okay, so round 5 is complete. Let's cut the yarn and fasten off. Now, 2 things I wanted to point out. When you go from a circle to a square, that first granny square round, your sides might be slightly curved. See how this has a slight curve to it? That's perfectly normal. It's because you're sort of forcing the stitches to go from circle to square. So it might have a slight curvature, but as you add more and more rounds, things are going to kind of straighten out a little bit. Okay, they'll get more, the square will get more sharp. And you can kind of sharpen these corners. I like to do this after each round. Just kind of tug them with your finger like that to kind of sharpen up those rounds, okay? The other thing I wanted to show you is as you work, so this granny square round we just did, we're just going to be repeating this round over and over until the square is as big as you need it to be for your pillow. So I grabbed my pillow and I'm just going to lay this here because you can see how many rounds we need to do. So as you can see, there's a few more rounds that we need to work. Now if your pillow is larger, you'll obviously need to work more rounds. And we're not just going to make it cover the top here like this. We're going to make it a little bit bigger because it also needs to wrap around the pillow. Now as you can see, my pillow is very poofy, so I'm going to need it to go around my pillow as well, not just covering the top of it, but just it needs to also wrap around. So we're going to work a few more rounds. I'm going to get you started on the next round. Now when you work granny squares, each time you work around, we're going to work the round the same exact way. The only thing different is that you're going to have more sides to work. The corners will be worked the same exact way. You're going to start each round the same exact way, but you'll have more sides. So before, see this purple round, we did corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner, side, side. Notice we had 2 sides on this round. But we need to increase. In order for our granny square to grow, we're going to have to increase. So for the next round we're going to do, and I'll show you how to get started on this round. We're going to do corner, and you can see these holes here. See these chain 1 spaces? Corner, side, 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 corner. So for each round you're going to have an extra side. So this one we had 2, the next one we'll have 3. After that there'll be 4 sides, then 5 sides, and so forth. Okay? So I'm going to get you started on this round and just kind of show you what I'm talking about visually. And then we're going to keep going until our square is as large as we need it to be for our pillow. Okay, so for the next round, what we're going to do is in any of the corner spaces, tie the new yarn on. We're going to begin in the corners for all the rounds that follow, okay? So tie that right on. I happen to be using the papaya for this round. And we're going to hold that tail along the edge as we work. Insert the hook into that corner space, bring up a loop, and then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then work the corner the same way we did in the round before to begin. So chain 3, now work 2 double crochet in that corner space, 1 and 2, chain 1, and then 3 double crochet all in that same corner space. So 1, 2, and 3. Next, chain 1, and I'm going to show you how to do the sides, how we have 1 extra one this time, and you'll have 1 extra, like I explained before, each time you work around. And then I'll get you to this first corner and then we'll rejoin, okay? So we're going to work our first side grouping here. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then 3 more double crochet. 1, 2, Get some more yarn from our papaya that's running low. So 3, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then one more side to work. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and then into that corner space, same way we did in the previous round. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then 3 more in that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. And then chain 1 to take you down the next side. So let's look at our work so far. Now you can see a visual of what I was talking about earlier. You have, remember before with this lilac round we had 2 sides, and with the papaya round we have 1, 2, 3 sides in between our corners. So as you work more and more rounds, the next round will have, we can already see the chain 1 spaces, side, side, side before you get to the corner. I'm sorry, side, 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 4 sides in the next round. Okay, so I'm going to continue with this round and work some more granny rounds until our granny square has covered our pillow, okay? So I'm going to continue working my colors, and then we will rejoin in just a moment, and we will move on to the next step of our pillow. Okay, so I worked a few more rounds of the pattern, the granny square, and basically what I did when I worked, now it doesn't matter what size pillow you have. So what you'll do when you're making your square is crochet until you have enough overhang. See how my pillow has a seam, kind of divides it in half? You'll want to work until your granny square, when you lay it on top of your pillow, it comes to where that seam is. See how it kind of lines up with that seam? And that will give you the overhang that you need in order for it to meet the other granny square on the side. So I've made 2 granny squares. They're both identical to one another. Now you can mix up the colors, but they're identical in size. And I've already woven in the ends as I went along. So I already went ahead and trimmed the ends. And then I'm going to take a tapestry needle and just weave in those last 2 ends, the ones you can't weave in because it's the very last end. So we can flip our square over. And then what we're going to do is keep this papaya color, we're going to keep that color in the papaya section. So we're just going to stay in the papaya area when we weave in this end. Okay? So just get that end nice and tucked in, and then you can just trim it with your scissors. And then let's do that same thing for the other side. We're going to notice I flipped it over to the back. The side that was facing you while you worked, that's the front side. But we want to weave it into where the back is, okay? So trim, and then we can put our tapestry needle aside. So then what we need to do is, we're not going to pick up our pillow yet. We're going to just keep it off to the side for a moment. And we're going to sandwich our granny squares together. I'm going to stick with the papaya to do my seam just so it blends in nicely. You can switch up the colors if you like. And we're going to make the top one face the outside and the bottom one face the outside. So when we open it, if you were to open it like a book, this is the inside of both squares. It's going to face the inside. We want the public side or the outside to be facing the pillow. So when it's inside of there, you're going to see the outside of both squares, okay? So sandwich them together and line them up. Next, pick any of the 4 corners you like and grab your hook, same size that we used to make the square. And we're going to take our papaya yarn. We are going to do a single crochet seam, okay? So what you're going to do is go into the corner space of the top square and the corner space of the bottom square and bring the yarn through and just tie it right on, okay? Just tie it right on. So like I mentioned before, we're going to do a single crochet seam. Now we can weave this in later, or you can weave it in as you go along. So insert your hook back into that corner space, and in the corner space, we're going to work 3 single crochets. So chain 1 and work 3 single crochet. So insert your hook into the corner space, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, and work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. And we're working into both layers of our square because it's going to seam it together. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to go in between each one of these double crochets. Okay, so go in between this top layer, in between the bottom layer. Now we made both of our squares identical, so everything should line up perfectly. Okay, go in between the top one and the bottom one, work your single crochet. Next, we've come to a space, so go right into that chain 1 space from the top square, go right into the chain 1 space of the bottom square, and work a single crochet. We're just going to keep doing this all the way across. Go in between those double crochets, work a single crochet, go in between the next one, and work a single crochet. You can see because we're using the same color yarn, it just really blends in very nicely. And when we open our square, there will be a little ridge, and that will create a nice little decorative ridge around our pillow. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing this all the way across, working our single crochets in between each double crochet and in the spaces. And this goes pretty quickly. Okay, just make sure you're going into both layers in order to get that seam. Okay? All the way across. We're going to do the first part of this every single stitch together. See, I'm going in the spaces, I'm going in between the double crochets, just getting that nice seam all the way across. And you can see it looks nice and neat, and on this side it looks nice and neat. Okay? Go in the spaces, go in between the double crochets. We're just going to take this to the first corner so I can show you how to work the corner. In between the double crochets of our granny and in the spaces of every single one all the way across. Now if your pillow is larger, smaller, it doesn't matter. You'll do it the same exact way because the basic granny shape is going to be the same. It's just going to matter how many sides that you have, depending on how big your granny square is. You'll have different sides depending on how many rounds you worked. So go in that last space before the corner. Now to work this first corner, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to treat it the same way. Go in between the double crochets, working those single crochets, each one that you come to. Now, we're at a corner space, so once again, because we need to round that corner, we got to put a couple extra stitches so it doesn't pull. So work 3 single crochets in that corner space. Same thing we did back there. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to continue around, and our seam is nice and flat and straight. So continue around by going in between the double crochets. You can work this into the stitches if you like to. I'm just going to work in between because it goes pretty quickly if you do it that way. And it looks neat still. Okay, so I'm just doing the same thing. Work in between the double crochets and in those spaces as well. So I'm going to keep going around and seaming my pillow. Now, what you're going to do is go around, but leave the top part open because we're going to slip our pillow into that while we're still working our seam, and then while the pillow's inside, we'll be able to seam it the rest of the way closed. Okay, so I'm going to keep going until I get to that top where we're going to be leaving it open. Okay, so I worked my single crochet seam all the way around, and now I'm back to the upper right corner. So we began at the upper left, we came down, over, up, and so now we basically just have a pocket. So what I'm going to do, I haven't worked this corner yet. We're going to work this top part last. So what I'm going to do is I made my loop extra big so I can stuff this pillow and it won't pull apart. So just grab your pillow. What we're going to do is just carefully slip it into our pillowcase. As if you were making your bed. You just slip it right on there. Make sure, sometimes if we don't get the corners all the way down, the corners can be empty and sort of floppy. Now the pillow I got at the craft store, I don't normally buy pre-made pillows. This is one of the first I've ever bought. I usually make my own. But this one is really nice and poofy. And so it really kind of opens up our stitches. But just make sure that the pillow is all the way stuffed in there. And look at both sides, because what can happen is as your granny square stretches, sometimes you can see an end that you might want to trim. Or if a corner of your pillow form is folded in, this corner can kind of be empty looking. So you want to make sure your corners are in there. And now we're ready. Let's get it back to where it was. Now we're ready to work the single crochet seam on the rest of our pillow to seam it shut. And you can see that single crochet seam gives it a nice little ridge that defines the edges of our pillow. And as you use pillows, they sort of flatten out, and this will kind of give and go where the pillow goes, basically. Okay, so what I'm going to do is continue seaming in the same manner, but just with the pillow inside, the top part of our pillow. All right, I'm just working that very last single crochet in that very last area of my pillow. I'm trying to hold this flat so you guys can see it. Okay. There we go. Then you're going to join, remember that chain one we did at the beginning of the round? You're going to join in that chain one. Might be a little bit snug, that's okay, with a slip stitch to close the round, okay? So let's grab our scissors, cut the yarn, and then just fasten off, okay? So our pillow looks fantastic, and you can kind of, once you get it all seamed up and straightened out, you can kind of shape it up the best you can, okay? It looks beautiful. I really love it. Okay, so we have, where's our end? Oh, here it is. And then see how I was talking about before? That's the corner of our pillow, and it's popping out. Just make sure it's like nice and tucked into that corner. Okay, so thread your tapestry needle. This is the very last end. And our pillow is complete. So hopefully you used up some more yarn. And if you have even more yarn and you've made your blanket already, you can make another pillow. You can make a really big pillow. You can, let me grab this end here. Sometimes when we stretch a granny around something, it can shift the ends around a little bit. So if you see any other ends, just kind of snip them off as you see them. Here's another one. We have lots of ends with these multiple color granny projects. Okay, so that is our tropical getaway pillow. It looks fabulous. It is all finished, and I can't wait to see the ones that all of you make. Thanks so much for watching, and definitely be sure to hop over to the Ravelry group. I'll post the link below. Check in, join in. If you haven't already, share your photos of your blanket. If any of you are attempting the pillow pattern, definitely share that as well. Also, connect on social media, and those links are below too. Keep sharing those photos, because next week, week 6, is the final week of our crochet along. We've done all of our crocheting, and now it's time to show it all off. So start submitting your photos for the Maker Gallery, and you can look at the last crochet along Maker Gallery for some inspiration and see what everyone else has done. But submit those photos, and I can't wait to put them all together next week. And even if you just have a pile of squares still and a half completed blanket, or a pile of yarn and one square done, please just share everything you have. We love seeing the color combinations and what everyone is doing. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all those latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.